got you here, Ben, because I need your help. Okay. So I'm starting the Chaos Space Marine army, and I've got a couple of months that I need to get them painted.
Yep.
And one of the ways that you paint your armies is you do a slap chop method. Tell me more what it is. I think you're better.
I paint as quickly as I can,
yep,
for the least amount of effort as I can, to make them look as good as I can in a short space of time. That's what I do.
And the thing is, we've got a couple of your models here, and some of these models are absolutely fantastic, and they were done so quickly as well, weren't they?
Yeah, they're all. I end up accumulating far more plastic than I can possibly paint, so I don't try and. None of it's award winning. Like, if you're here to win awards for your painting, this isn't the right thing for you.
No.
But if you want to get stuff on the table that looks pretty good,
yeah,
and we'll get an army on the table, then yeah, like definitely this is the way to do it.
No, 100%. So one thing that when I researched Slapjob, I got taught spray paint black and then give one centerful highlight and get going with it.
Well, everyone's got their own sort of like take on Slapjob and how it works, but mine, I tend to use 2 or 3 greys, and then build up that gradual sort of like highlight across the whole mini. And the longer you spend on those different layers to get like a nice even blend between them, the better your contrast paint looks when you put that on. So more effort in the dry brushing stage, which is the most boring stage. Like, it is really dull.
Yeah.
But you put the effort in there, it pays dividend later on when you can get your contrast paint on, because it just goes on. You can so rather than one level of lighting, we're going to create 3 gradual layers of lighting, going from dark to light. And then when it comes to the final speed paint coat, it just looks much better.
Excellent.
But it's a little bit less interesting because that dry brushing stage does take you a little bit longer.
Okay, no, fair enough. So, I mean, the big reason I've come for you is with the Chaos Space Marine army I'm doing, I've got a lot of Chaos cultists.
Yeah.
And I've got squads of 20 Chaos cultists at a time. So what I'd like to do, if you don't mind, is you take us through and show me how you get them ready, and then maybe get 1 or 2 painted up for us.
Yeah, sounds good.
That'd be fantastic.
So the main thing is a couple of decent dry brushes. These are our 3rd space ones, so these have got a ton of bristles in, so it collects a nice amount of paint. The advantage of these over, say, flat ones is that because you get more paint in the bristles, we've got to be a little bit more careful about putting too much paint on. But it does mean we're going to get a much better blend, because we're going to be getting more bristle contact with the mini for less passes. Okay. And then we've got our 3 greys. The 3 greys we've got here are Mechanicus Standard, Celestra Grey, and Ulthuan Grey. So these are going to form our dark to light layers. Okay. First thing is going to get our Mechanicus Standard. I've given it a bit of a shake up anyway. Let's open this puppy up, and I'm going to take the larger dry brush for this one. When it comes to taking the paint off, we've got 2 ways of doing it. You can either use something like this, which can take your first few bits off, and you're going to need to go quite heavy on this. There we go, and you can start to see it getting just a little bit fainter as we go over it. Or you can use a bit of tissue. The advantage with using something like this, and it can be an old bit of terrain that you've primed up, when we come to the mini, we're not going to chuck loads of paint on. Okay, cool. Get this over and just give it some passes like that. And we're going to aim for pretty much everywhere on the model, apart from the bits where light just wouldn't hit. And then when you do your first brush, if you want to test how much paint is on there, you can either do it on your skin and see how much comes off. I tend to just do a light pass with the brush, and what I tend to do is aim for somewhere that would naturally need a bit more paint. So like the top of the model or something like that. And again, because this is our darkest layer, we can afford to go a bit heavy. And the way I tend to approach it is doing lots of little passes rather than one heavy one. And there you can see we've got the majority of the mini covered.
So what's this you got?
So this is some brush soap, and all I'm doing is giving the dry brush a bit of love. We're going to get the bristles nice and wet, scooch it around in the soap, let that sit for a minute. Particularly when you're dry brushing, you end up pushing a lot of paint up into the top of the bristles.
And that soap is another first space product, is it?
Yes, yeah. So it's our own soap. It works. I've left many a brush covered in paint and brought it back. Worth noting, in between coats, this brush is still wet. So we're either going to swap to a different one, which is what we're going to do, or you want to make sure that is completely dry before you move on to the next one. Otherwise it waters down paint and it defeats the object of dry brushing. Excellent. So when it comes to taking the paint off, we've also used this. You can use tissue, but one of the differences is that the tissue sucks all the moisture out of the paint. So it means that when you come to dry brush, it looks slightly dustier. It's quicker because it takes more of the paint off, whereas this takes less of the paint off. So you've got to be mindful that this will give you a much better blended finish. You are going to be a little bit more mindful about how much paint is left on the brush. So we're going to take our next layer, which is this one's Celestra Grey, and we're going to get a little bit on there. We want to get most of this off at the top of the pot, and then we're going to get as much off on here as we can do. And if you want to be sure, again, you can either do a bit on your skin or start off with somewhere at the top of the model. And we're just going to do a couple of light passes, starting from the top. And what we're aiming for here is to cover most of the model, and again, just avoiding the darkest areas. So we get all of those areas. Again, what we want to do is lots of light passes. I'm doing this quite quickly, but you can spend more time doing it. And again, the more effort you put into that initial dry brush, the better it's going to look when it comes to your speed paint. We're now going to get ready for our final layer, which is we're using Ulthuan Grey. Yep. You can use, it depends, you don't have to use these greys. If you aim for the same sort of like dark middle light, you can use off-whites, you can use greys, it kind of doesn't matter. We want something that's going to have much brighter finish. You can use things like White Scar, where it's just got that, it's a much sharper white, or you could use Corax White, is another good one. We're going to use the off-white with Ulthuan Grey, and again, I'm just going to take this off. And what I want to do here is take off quite a lot of that, because we want this final layer to be quite subtle. And then again, if we're not sure how much is on there, on the skin, and then I'm going to aim for the tops. So this final layer, we're just going to aim for a bit of like a top down, or areas that we want to be a little bit lighter. So maybe the skin, the hands. We're going to catch the top of his chest here. Yeah, he's more ripped than I am. But he is made out of plastic, so it's a lot easier to maintain that physique.
0% fat.
Yeah. Like this guy is keto all the way. There we go. And so I'm just going to catch a few of those areas, and that's probably it. Again, you can kind of, it's really down to personal preference how light you go. But what we've ended up with is something that looks now quite nice and blended.
Yeah.
We've got a few different layers. And there we go.
So what I've decided to do as well is I wanted to see what my slap drop method that I was taught, which is a base coat with a centerfold highlight. As you can see, it's very patchy, the centerfold, and there's also a lot of darker spots in it. So let's see how it just turns out. What I've decided to do is this is the range of colours I've used. I've got a lot of Citadel colours here for the skin, the base colours, the trousers. I've also got the Vallejo silver, metallic silver, which is an airbrush colour, which I actually personally find is a really good silver to use, very quick and easy to use, very smooth to use. But anyhow, that's a personal preference. So as you can see here, I've got the two models, and it took me a grand total of about 35 to 40 minutes to get these two models painted up. Couple of things I noticed whilst painting these models in the two different schemes. With the centerfold highlight, the details weren't picked up as much as one would like, and I couldn't see everything that I was painting. I had to go back over the model a couple of times just getting the details in. Whereas the free coat dry brush from Ben, all the detail was there. It was so easy to paint the model and just get all of the details picked up in one hit straight away. And as you can see here, this is Ben's model, all painted up. I like the transition, it looks a lot smoother. The cloak is really lovely, the trousers, everything, just the transition in colours is a lot nicer. But when you go over to the centerfold highlight, you can see it's still good, it's a lot brighter, but if you look on the cloak, there's a bit more speckled underneath the arm, underneath the hand, where the centerfold didn't touch it. It's just black paint. Both work, but both are different. So let me know what you think one is the best in the comments below.